Hello there, and welcome to the Dreamy Ocean Channel. I'm so glad you found your way here. Maybe you've had a long day, or maybe you're the kind of person who likes to fall asleep, thinking about the deep mysteries of the ocean instead of counting sheep. Either way, tonight's journey is for you. You've got nothing to do but rest. Let your breath slow, your thoughts soften, and your body grow light as if you're drifting gently downward through warm, dark water. Because tonight, we're descending into the realm of giants. Not dinosaurs or whales, but something stranger still. Something with eyes the size of dinner plates and tentacles that stretch longer than a city bus. Tonight, we're exploring two of the ocean's most mysterious creatures, the giant squid and the colossal squid. Two titans of the deep that have haunted sailors' nightmares for centuries, inspired ancient legends of sea monsters, and yet remain almost completely unknown to science. They live in a world of crushing pressure and absolute darkness thousands of feet below the surface, where sunlight has never reached, and humans can barely follow. These are not small animals hiding in the shadows. They are among the largest invertebrates on Earth. One grows longer than a school bus. The other weighs more than a grand piano. Both have eyes larger than any other creature in the animal kingdom, adapted to detect the faintest glimmers of bioluminescence in the pitch-black abyss. Both possess beaks strong enough to slice through muscle and bone. And both remain so elusive that we've only filmed them alive in recent years, despite centuries of searching. What makes this mystery even more captivating is how little we know. We don't know exactly how long they live. We've never witnessed them mating. We're not certain how many exist. We can only guess at their behavior, their intelligence, their migrations through the deep. They are ghosts in the machine of the ocean, leaving behind only scattered clues, a mangled tentacle, a massive beak found in a whale's stomach, circular scars on the skin of deep-diving predators. Tonight, we'll compare these two magnificent creatures side by side. We'll explore how they're similar and how they're remarkably different. We'll trace their stories from ancient myths to modern science. And we'll drift through the questions that still haunt researchers who dedicate their lives to understanding them. If these calm, curious explorations help you unwind or give you a quiet way to end your day, consider gently tapping the like button and subscribing to the channel. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. Now let's begin our descent into the deep. Let your mind sink slowly, peacefully into the cold blue darkness where the giant squid and colossal squid wait silent and watchful in waters we have only begun to explore. Legends, myths, and first encounters. Long before scientists gave them Latin names, before submarines could reach the ocean depths, before cameras could capture them on film, the giant squid existed in the human imagination. They swam through Norse sagas and Greek epics, through sailors' tales, whispered in candlelit taverns, through maps marked with warnings in the margins. Here be monsters. The most famous of these legends is the Kraken. In Scandinavian folklore, the Kraken was described as a creature so vast it could be mistaken for an island. Sailors approaching what they thought was land would suddenly find the ground beneath them shifting, rising, revealing itself as the back of an enormous beast. Tentacles thicker than ship masts would coil upward from the depths, wrapping around hulls, dragging entire vessels down into the cold abyss. No one who encountered the Kraken, the stories claimed, ever lived to tell the tale. These weren't just fanciful stories told to entertain or frighten. Many historians now believe that genuine encounters with giant squid washed ashore or spotted at the surface inspired the Kraken legend. Imagine a fisherman in the 1500s encountering a beached squid with tentacles stretching 40 feet and eyes as large as human heads. Without any scientific framework to understand what they were seeing, it's no wonder such creatures became mythologized into something even larger and more terrifying. The ancient Greeks had their own version. In Homer's Odyssey, the monster Scylla lurked in a narrow strait, reaching down with multiple tentacled arms to pluck sailors from passing ships. Some scholars suggest that this too may have been inspired by sightings of giant cephalopods, their many limbs writhing in the waves, their massive forms half visible beneath the surface. In the Caribbean, fishermen spoke of the lusca, a monstrous octopus-like creature that supposedly inhabited the blue holes and underwater caves of the Bahamas. It was said to change color to drag swimmers down into lightless depths to create whirlpools with its movements. While this legend likely blends fears of giant squid with other sea creatures, it shows how widespread such tales became across different cultures and oceans. Even in the age of early science, encounters with these creatures were met with disbelief. In the 1550s, a strange creature washed ashore in Denmark. It was described to King Christian III as a sea monk, an unusual animal with a round head, what appeared to be robes and elongated limbs. The naturalist Japetus Steenstrup, who would later become the first scientist to formally describe the giant squid, believed this sea monk was actually an early sighting of Architeuthis, misinterpreted through the lens of religious imagery. For centuries, scientists dismissed sailors' accounts of giant squid as exaggeration or fantasy. Respectable naturalists argued that such creatures simply couldn't exist. The ocean, they believed, was too well understood. If giant squid were real, surely they would have been captured and studied by now. But fishermen kept finding them. Along the coasts of Newfoundland in the 1870s, an unusual number of giant squid began washing ashore. Local residents were astonished by the size. One particularly massive specimen was brought to Reverend Moses Harvey, an amateur naturalist who recognized its scientific importance. He had himself photographed with the creature, which measured over 20 feet long, its tentacles draped across his study. These photographs, along with detailed measurements and preserved specimens, finally provided the scientific community with undeniable proof. Beyond Newfoundland, other regions reported their own encounters. In 1861, the French Navy corvette Alecton attempted to capture a giant squid off the Canary Islands. The crew managed to get a rope around the creature's tail, but when they tried to haul it aboard, the body separated, leaving them with only the tail section as proof. Still, the crew's detailed accounts and the preserved tail added to the growing body of evidence. In Norway, fishermen had long known of creatures they called the Kraken, massive squid that sometimes entangled themselves in fishing lines or washed up after storms. These Norse fishermen spoke of the Kraken with a mixture of fear and respect, creatures of the deep that could on rare occasions threaten small boats. In Japan, ancient texts and woodblock prints depicted enormous squid attacking boats or being washed ashore. These images, created centuries before Western scientists acknowledged giant squid existence, show that coastal communities worldwide had encountered these creatures long before the scientific establishment accepted their reality. The Japanese called them Dai-Ika, giant squid, and included them in folklore as symbols of the ocean's mysterious power. Even literature played a role in shaping perceptions. Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, published in 1870, featured a dramatic battle between the submarine Nautilus and a school of giant squid. Verne's descriptions, though fictionalized and exaggerated, were based on real accounts and helped popularize the idea of enormous cephalopods lurking in ocean depths. His work reached audiences far beyond maritime communities, bringing the giant squid into public consciousness in a way that dry scientific papers never could. The transition from myth to science was not smooth or sudden. It was a gradual accumulation of evidence, specimen by specimen, sighting by sighting, until the weight of proof became too great to ignore. And even then, skeptics remained. Some argued that the specimens were abnormal individuals, freaks of nature rather than representatives of a true species. Others suggested they were diseased or malformed squid that had grown to unusual sizes. It took decades of consistent findings, genetic studies, and eventually photographs of living specimens to fully convince the scientific community that giant squid were not only real, but relatively common in certain ocean zones. The giant squid was real. The Kraken, stripped of its legendary size and malevolence, existed. Yet even as the giant squid moved from myth to documented fact, another giant lurked in the depths, unknown to science. The colossal squid remained hidden for decades longer, even more elusive than its cousin. Its existence would only be confirmed in 1925 when fishermen examining the stomach contents of a captured sperm whale discovered two strange arms. These arms were different from those of the giant squid. They were shorter, thicker, and lined with rotating hooks rather than smooth suckers with tiny teeth. It would take decades more before a complete specimen was found. While giant squid washed ashore with some regularity, colossal squid almost never did. They lived deeper, colder, in more remote waters surrounding Antarctica. They were heavier, slower, more energy efficient, and thus less likely to venture into shallower depths where they might strand. The name Mesonicoteuthis hamiltoni was given to this new giant. Mesonicoteuthis means middle claw squid, referring to those distinctive hooks. The species name honored the scientist who first recognized these arms as belonging to something different, something unknown. For most of the 20th century, our knowledge of the colossal squid came almost entirely from fragments. A beak found in a whale's stomach, an arm tangled in fishing nets, blurry photographs of partially decomposed specimens. Scientists could only guess at what a living colossal squid looked like, how it moved, how it hunted in the frozen waters of the Southern Ocean. Meanwhile, the giant squid, though more frequently encountered, remained nearly as mysterious. Stranded specimens told us about anatomy, but nothing about behavior. How did these creatures navigate in total darkness? What did they sound like if they made sounds at all? Did they hunt alone or in groups? How long did they live? Where did they mate? And how many eggs did they produce? These questions hung in the cold, dark water like bioluminescent sparks, unanswered, tantalizing. The giants of the deep had been proven real, but they guarded their secrets well. They remained phantoms, appearing in death but invisible in life, leaving only scars on the skin of sperm whales and wonder in the minds of those who sought them. And so the legends persisted, transformed but not diminished. The Kraken became the giant squid. The sea monk became Architeuthis. The monsters of ancient maps became subjects of modern biology. But the mystery, that deep, quiet mystery of what happens in the dark places of the ocean where pressure crushes and light fades, and creatures with eyes like headlights glide through eternal night, that mystery remained. The discovery of two giants. The story of how science finally captured proof of the giant squid begins not in a laboratory or a museum, but on the rocky shores of Newfoundland in the 19th century. This cold Canadian island jutting into the North Atlantic became an unexpected theatre for one of zoology's great revelations. Fishermen in these waters had long spoken of enormous squid. Sometimes they would haul up fishing lines to find them torn apart, massive sucker marks left on the bait. Occasionally, after winter storms, strange carcasses would wash ashore, tentacles stretching across the beach eyes, staring blankly at the sky. The locals called them devil fish. They were wary of them, but also fascinated, unsure whether to fear these creatures or marvel at them. Then came November 1870. A fisherman named Theophilus Picotte was out in his small boat near the settlement of Portugal Cove when something massive surfaced nearby. It was a giant squid floating weakly near the surface, clearly dying or already dead. Picotte, rather than fleeing, decided to capture it. He managed to lasso the creature and tow it back to shore where Reverend Moses Harvey, a local minister with a deep interest in natural history, was immediately notified. Harvey recognized the significance. He purchased the specimen, had it brought to his house, and arranged for it to be photographed, an unusual step in an era when photography was still relatively new. The image shows Harvey standing beside the squid, which drapes across his study, its tentacles longer than a grown man. He measured it carefully, preserved tissue samples, and sent detailed descriptions to scientists in Europe and the United States. This wasn't the first giant squid ever found, but it was one of the first thoroughly documented with measurements, photographs, and preserved specimens that could be studied. Other specimens followed. Within a few years, Newfoundland experienced what scientists would later describe as a stranding event: multiple giant squid washing ashore in a short period. Some were massive, with tentacles stretching 12, 15, even 20 meters when measured carefully. The scientific community could no longer dismiss these accounts. Peter Steenstrup in Denmark, who had been collecting reports for years, formally described the genus Architeuthis in 1857. But it was these Newfoundland specimens that truly convinced skeptics. The giant squid was real, immense, and utterly unlike anything else in the ocean. Yet questions multiplied. Why were so many washing ashore in Newfoundland? What brought them to the surface? Frederick Aldrich, who would become one of the world's foremost experts on giant squid, proposed that strandings might be cyclical, perhaps related to ocean current changes or food availability. He predicted, based on historical patterns, that another stranding event would occur around 1960. Remarkably, his prediction proved somewhat accurate, with several specimens found between 1961 and 1968. This suggested that whatever caused strandings followed some kind of pattern, though scientists still don't fully understand what triggers it. Meanwhile, halfway around the world in New Zealand, another hotspot for giant squid sightings emerged. The cold, deep waters around New Zealand's coast seemed to be prime habitat. Fishermen pulling up nets would occasionally find squid tangled in the lines, some of them enormous. Museums in Wellington and Christchurch began accumulating specimens. Each one offered clues about anatomy, growth patterns, and geographic distribution, but they were all dead, often badly damaged by the time they were studied. Then in the 1920s, while scientists were still piecing together the mystery of the giant squid, whispers of something else began to surface. Whalers working in the Southern Ocean in the frigid waters near Antarctica started noticing unusual remains in the stomachs of sperm whales. These whales, the largest toothed predators on Earth, dove deep to hunt squid, sometimes descending more than a mile below the surface, to feed. When whalers opened the stomachs of captured sperm whales, they often found squid beaks, indigestible structures made of chitin that accumulated over time like stones in a bird's gizzard. Most of these beaks belonged to known species, but some were different. They were larger, thicker, more robust. And in 1925, 2 arms were recovered from a whale's stomach that didn't match any known squid. They were short, muscular, and lined with sharp, rotating hooks, rather than the serrated suckers typical of giant squid. These arms were recognized as something new. Scientists eventually named the species Mesonicoteuthis hamiltoni, the colossal squid. But for decades after this initial discovery, almost nothing else was learned. The colossal squid became a ghost, known only from scattered fragments pulled from whale stomachs. No complete specimen existed. No one knew what a whole animal looked like. The scientific literature contained only sketches and hypotheses, best guesses based on a handful of arms and beaks. It wasn't until 1981 that the first complete colossal squid was found, a small juvenile caught in fishing nets off the coast of Antarctica. Even this specimen was damaged, but it offered the first full glimpse of the animal's anatomy. Scientists could finally see the body structure, the fin shape, the arrangement of arms and tentacles. It was clearly related to the Cranchiid family, the glass squids which were known for transparent bodies and large eyes. But the colossal squid was massive compared to its relatives, built like a deep-sea tank. More specimens trickled in over the following decades, most of them caught accidentally by fishermen targeting toothfish in Antarctic waters. Each one added a piece to the puzzle. By the early 21st century, scientists had confirmed that the colossal squid was not only real, but likely the heaviest invertebrate on Earth. It wasn't as long as the giant squid, its tentacles were shorter, but it was far more massive, more robust built, to survive in some of the coldest, deepest, most inhospitable waters on the planet. And yet, despite these discoveries, both giants remained fundamentally mysterious. All the specimens were dead, often partially decomposed or frozen. No one had seen them alive in their natural habitat. No one knew how they moved, how they hunted, how they behaved. The giants existed in scientific collections in freezers and formaldehyde jars, but their living selves remained hidden in the deep. This would change slowly as technology advanced. But for more than a century after their scientific description, the giant squid and the colossal squid were known primarily as corpses, beautiful and terrifying in death, but silent about the secrets of their lives. Physical anatomy, a detailed comparison. To truly understand the difference between these two titans, we must look closely at their bodies. Not with a quick glance, but with the slow, careful attention of a scientist examining a specimen under dim laboratory lights, measuring, comparing, noting every detail. Let's start with size, because this is where the confusion often begins. People frequently ask which is larger, the giant squid or the colossal squid. The answer depends on how you measure. If you measure total length from the tip of the mantle to the furthest reach of the feeding tentacles, the giant squid wins. A large female giant squid can stretch to around 12 or 13 meters, roughly 40 feet, when those long, slender feeding tentacles are fully extended. Some historical claims suggest specimens of 20 meters or more, but these have not been scientifically verified and may have involved measuring stretched or damaged tissue. The mantle, which is the main body section containing the organs, measures about 2 meters in a mature giant squid, roughly 6.5 feet. The 8 arms are much shorter than the 2 specialized feeding tentacles, perhaps a third of the tentacle length. When the giant squid extends those tentacles, fully reaching out to snare a fish passing in the darkness, the total length is impressive, a creature that could stretch from one end of a small house to the other. But length is not the same as mass. This is where the colossal squid reveals its true power. The colossal squid has a much more compact body. Its mantle can reach 2.5 meters, slightly longer than the giant squids, but more importantly, it's far thicker, more muscular, built like a heavyweight boxer compared to the giant squid's lightweight frame. The tentacles of the colossal squid are much shorter. When extended, the total length might only reach 9 or 10 meters, about 30 feet. In life, the tentacles may even retract somewhat, making the living animal appear shorter still. But what the colossal squid lacks in length, it more than compensates for in weight. the largest confirmed specimen caught in 2007 off Antarctica, and now preserved at the Museum of New Zealand, Te Papa Tongarewa weighed 495 kilograms, nearly 1,100 pounds. That's heavier than a grand piano. Some researchers estimate that truly massive adults based on beak sizes found in sperm whale stomachs might reach 600 or even 700 kilograms, making the colossal squid the heaviest invertebrate on Earth. This difference in build tells us something about how they live. The giant squid is built for speed and reach. Its long, streamlined body and extended tentacles allow it to dart through the water, lunging at prey from a distance. The colossal squid is built for power and endurance in a colder, slower environment. Its thick muscles and compact form help it survive in the near-freezing waters of the Southern Ocean, where every movement must be energy efficient. Now, let's move to the eyes, perhaps the most striking feature of both species. Both the giant squid and the colossal squid possess the largest eyes in the animal kingdom, but the colossal squid holds the absolute record. A giant squid's eye can measure up to 27 centimeters in diameter, roughly the size of a large dinner plate. These eyes are enormous by any standard, far larger than those of any other animal, except the colossal squid. They are adapted to detect the faintest glimmers of light in the deep ocean, where sunlight never penetrates. Bioluminescence, the glow produced by deep-sea organisms, becomes the primary visual signal, and these massive eyes can capture even the smallest flash of blue-green light from hundreds of feet away. But the colossal squid's eyes surpass even this. They can reach up to 40 centimeters in diameter, nearly 16 inches, the size of a large pizza. These are not just the largest eyes of any squid, they are the largest eyes of any animal that has ever lived, larger than those of the blue whale, larger than those of any dinosaur we've discovered. The pupil alone can be up to 9 centimeters across. Why such enormous eyes? Scientists believe it's an evolutionary response to life in the deep, where detecting predators and prey requires extreme visual sensitivity. Sperm whales, the primary predator of both squid species, are large enough to disturb bioluminescent plankton as they swim, creating a faint glow around their bodies. With eyes this large, squid can potentially detect that telltale glow from far away, giving them precious seconds to react to flee or to hide in the darkness. The anatomy of these eyes is equally remarkable. They contain a large spherical lens that focuses light onto a retina, packed with rod cells, specialized for low-light vision. The eyes are protected by thick, oily tears that prevent them from drying or being damaged by the high-pressure environment. And unlike human eyes, which move within the eye socket, squid eyes are more fixed, though some species can rotate them slightly to track movement. Now we come to the weapons, the arms and tentacles. This is where the two species diverge most dramatically. The giant squid has 8 arms and 2 longer feeding tentacles like all squid. The arms are lined with 2 rows of suckers, each sucker edged with a serrated ring of sharp, chitinous teeth. These teeth are tiny but incredibly sharp, designed to grip struggling prey. When a giant squid wraps its arms around a fish, those hundreds of tiny teeth dig into the flesh, holding tight, even as the prey thrashes. The 2 feeding tentacles are much longer and can be shot out rapidly to capture prey from a distance. At the end of each tentacle is a club-like structure covered in larger suckers, also lined with teeth. These tentacles act like grappling hooks, extending, grabbing, and retracting in a fraction of a second. The colossal squid's armament is different and in many ways more terrifying. It also has 8 arms and 2 tentacles, but instead of just sucker teeth, it possesses sharp, rotating hooks. These hooks are found on the tentacle clubs, and on some of the arms. They can swivel independently, allowing the squid to adjust their angle to better grip prey. Imagine a row of fish hooks that can pivot to embed themselves more deeply into flesh. That's what a colossal squid wields. Surrounding these hooks are suckers, but even the suckers are lined with sharp, serrated edges. This combination of hooks and toothed suckers makes the colossal squid's grip nearly inescapable. Once it latches onto prey, there is almost no chance of escape. The hooks dig in the sucker's hold fast, and the prey is drawn towards the beak. The beak. Both species have beaks, hard structures made of chitin that function like a parrot's beak, slicing and tearing flesh. The giant squid's beak is large and powerful, capable of cutting through muscle and bone. But the colossal squid's beak is larger still, the biggest beak of any squid species. It's a dark, glossy structure shaped like a monstrous nutcracker, strong enough to slice through the tough, oily flesh of Antarctic toothfish, one of its preferred prey. Behind the beak lies a radula, a ribbon-like tongue covered in tiny teeth that helps pull food into the esophagus. The esophagus strangely passes through the squid's brain, meaning that if the squid swallows something too large, it can cause brain damage. This anatomical quirk means squid must tear their food into small pieces before swallowing, which is why the beak is so essential. The skin of both species is another study in contrast. The giant squid has relatively thin, delicate skin, often reddish or pinkish in color, due to pigment cells called chromatophores. These cells can expand and contract to change the squid's color, possibly for camouflage or communication, though we've never observed this in the wild. The colossal squid's skin is thicker, more gelatinous, adapted to the extreme cold of Antarctic waters. Juvenile colossal squid, like other members of the cranchide family, are partially transparent, a ghostly, glassy appearance that helps them avoid detection. As they mature, their muscles thicken and they become more opaque, but they retain a somewhat translucent quality, especially in the mantle. Recent footage from 2025 showing a juvenile colossal squid revealed that they have color-changing cells on their mantle, suggesting they can shift hues, perhaps, to blend into their surroundings or signal to others. Both species have jet propulsion systems using a siphon to expel water and rocket backward through the ocean. The giant squid's jet is likely more powerful and rapid, suited to quick bursts of speed. The colossal squid's jet is probably slower but more controlled, allowing precise movements in the still, cold waters of the abyss. Finally, both possess bioluminescent photophores, small light-producing organs scattered across their bodies. The giant squid has relatively few, and their function is still debated. The colossal squid has more, especially around the eyes and on the underside of the body. These may be used for counter-illumination, a camouflage technique, where the squid produces light on its underside to match the faint glow from above, erasing its silhouette and making it invisible to predators looking up from below. Beneath the skin and muscle lies an equally fascinating internal anatomy. Both species have 3 hearts, a trait common to all cephalopods. 2 of these hearts, called branchial hearts, pump blood through the gills, where it picks up oxygen from the surrounding water. The 3rd heart, the systemic heart, pumps that oxygenated blood through the rest of the body. This 3-heart system is necessary because squid blood, which contains copper-based hemocyanin rather than iron-based hemoglobin, is less efficient at carrying oxygen than mammalian blood. The placement of these hearts is critical. The systemic heart sits in the center of the body, protected by the mantle. But there's a curious anatomical constraint. The esophagus runs directly through the middle of this heart. This means that when a squid swallows food, it passes through its own heart. If the squid tried to swallow something too large, it could literally give itself a heart attack. This is why the beak is so important, not just for killing prey, but for tearing it into small, manageable pieces. The nervous system of both species is remarkably sophisticated. Squid have the most complex nervous systems of any invertebrate. The central brain is relatively small, about the size of a walnut, even in giant specimens, but it's supplemented by large optic lobes that process visual information and by nerve cords running down each arm. These arm nerves contain clusters of neurons called ganglia, which allow each arm to operate with a degree of independence. A severed squid arm can still react to stimuli, still grasp and move, because it has its own neural processing capability. This distributed nervous system may be what allows squid to coordinate their 8 arms and 2 tentacles so precisely during hunting and feeding. Each arm doesn't need to wait for instructions from the brain. It can sense, react, and move on its own, with the brain serving more as a coordinator than micromanager. The digestive system follows an unusual path. Food enters through the beak, passes through the radula and esophagus through the heart, and enters a stomach where digestive enzymes begin breaking it down. From there, it moves to the cecum, a large digestive gland, where nutrients are absorbed. Waste is expelled through an anus that opens near the siphon, meaning squid essentially defecate into the water stream they use for jet propulsion. This might seem inefficient, but it actually helps disperse waste, quickly reducing the chance that predators will detect the squid through chemical cues. Both species also possess an ink sac, though its usefulness in the deep ocean is debated. When threatened, squid can release a cloud of melanin-rich ink that may confuse predators or mask the squid's escape. In shallow water, where there's more light, this ink creates a dark cloud that obscures vision. In the deep ocean, some scientists believe squid might mix bioluminescent compounds with their ink, creating a glowing decoy that attracts predators' attention, while the squid jets away into darkness. The mantle itself is a marvel of muscular engineering. It's a thick wall of circular and longitudinal muscles that can contract powerfully to expel water through the siphon, creating thrust. The giant squid's mantle is more streamlined and flexible, allowing rapid, repeated contractions for sustained swimming. The colossal squid's mantle is thicker and more rigid, providing strength and protection, but sacrificing some speed and agility. Reproductive organs, when present in mature specimens, occupy significant space within the mantle cavity. Females have a pair of ovaries that can swell enormously when full of developing eggs, sometimes taking up more than half the body cavity. Males have testes and a complex system for packaging sperm into spermatophores' torpedo-shaped bundles that can be stored and transferred during mating. The hectocotylus, the modified arm used for sperm transfer, shows subtle differences between the two species, though both follow the same basic design. One final anatomical detail worth noting is the statocyst's organs of balance and orientation. These are small, fluid-filled cavities containing mineralized structures called statoliths. As the squid moves and rotates, the statoliths shift, stimulating sensory hairs that tell the squid which way is up, down, or sideways. This is essential for an animal living in 3-dimensional space, with no visual reference points for orientation. In sum, the giant squid is a creature of elegance and reach, built to strike from a distance with speed and precision. The colossal squid is a creature of power and patience, built to ambush prey with overwhelming force and endure in the harshest environment on Earth. Every detail of their anatomy, from their dinner plate eyes to their 3 hearts, from their chitinous beaks to their jet propulsion systems, reflects millions of years of evolution in the deep ocean, shaping them into two of the most extraordinary animals on the planet. Habitats and geographic distribution. If you could drain the ocean and walk across the seafloor, you would find that the habitats of these two giants do not overlap much at all. They live in different worlds, separated not just by distance, but by temperature depth and the invisible boundaries that define ocean zones. The giant squid is a creature of temperate and subtropical waters. It lives in oceans around the world, though certain regions seem to be hotspots where sightings and strandings occur more frequently. The North Atlantic particularly, the waters off Newfoundland, Norway, the British Isles and Spain, has produced many specimens. The North Pacific near Japan and the coasts of California and Alaska also yield sightings. The southern hemisphere waters around New Zealand, southern Australia, and the southern tip of Africa are known habitats as well. What unites these regions? They tend to be areas where cold, nutrient-rich water upwells from the deep, creating productive ecosystems, with abundant fish and squid for the giant squid to prey upon. These are not tropical waters. The giant squid prefers cooler temperatures, though not as cold as the Antarctic. It lives in what oceanographers call the mesopelagic and bathypelagic zones, the Twilight Zone and the Midnight Zone. The Twilight Zone begins around 200 meters below the surface and extends to about 1,000 meters. Here, faint sunlight still penetrates, but it is dim blue and fading. This is the realm of bioluminescence, where most creatures produce their own light. The giant squid spends much of its time in this zone hunting fish and smaller squid that migrate vertically each night from deeper waters to feed near the surface. Below the Twilight Zone lies the Midnight Zone from 1,000 meters to around 4,000 meters. No sunlight reaches here. The pressure is immense, hundreds of times greater than at the surface. The temperature hovers just above freezing. The giant squid can descend into these depths, especially when hunting or evading predators, but it seems to prefer the upper edge of the deep, where prey is more abundant. Scientists have tracked giant squid sightings and strandings over the years, trying to map their distribution. What emerges is a picture of a nomadic, wide-ranging species. The giant squid does not seem to stay in one place. It may migrate seasonally following food sources or responding to ocean currents. The fact that genetic studies suggest all giant squid belong to a single species, rather than multiple regional species, indicates that they are capable of long-distance movement, potentially crossing ocean basins. The colossal squid, by contrast, is a specialist. It lives exclusively in the Southern Ocean, the vast ring of cold water encircling Antarctica. This is one of the most remote and inhospitable marine environments on Earth. The water temperature here rarely rises above a few degrees Celsius, hovering near freezing year-round. Ice shelves stretch for hundreds of miles. The surface freezes in winter, creating a barrier between the ocean and the sky. The colossal squid has been found in waters south of the 40th parallel south, a latitude that cuts through the southern tips of South America, Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. Most specimens come from even farther south in the deep waters directly adjacent to the Antarctic continent. This is a circumpolar distribution, meaning the colossal squid encircles Antarctica like a living ring, staying in the coldest, deepest waters. Depth-wise, the colossal squid goes deeper than the giant squid. Juvenile colossal squid have been caught at depths ranging from the surface down to about 1,000 meters, but these are young individuals still growing. Adolescent and adult colossal squid are believed to live primarily between 1,000 and 2,200 meters, possibly deeper. This places them firmly in the bathypelagic zone, the Midnight Zone, where sunlight never reaches and the pressure would crush an unprotected human instantly. Why does the colossal squid live so deep and so cold? One reason is food. The Southern Ocean, despite its harsh conditions, is incredibly productive. Cold water holds more oxygen than warm water, and nutrient upwelling from the deep supports vast populations of krillfish and other marine life. The Antarctic toothfish, also known as the Chilean sea bass, when marketed for food, is a large, slow-moving fish that lives at great depths and is one of the colossal squid's primary prey. These fish are oily and energy-rich, perfect for a squid that needs to conserve energy in freezing water. Another reason is predation. By living at such depths, the colossal squid reduces its exposure to some predators, though sperm whales, which can dive deeper than 2,000 meters, remain a constant threat. The deep also offers the advantage of stability. Surface waters are turbulent, affected by storms, seasonal changes, and temperature swings. The deep is calm, dark, and unchanging, a place where a slow, energy-conserving predator can wait patiently for prey. Scientists believe the colossal squid may exhibit some form of vertical migration, not daily, like many deep-sea creatures, but perhaps seasonally or at different life stages. Juveniles are found at shallower depths, possibly because they are smaller and more vulnerable, needing to avoid the deepest, most predator-rich zones. As they grow, they descend, settling into the cold, quiet depths where they spend their adult lives. This difference in habitat has profound implications for how we study these creatures. The giant squid, living in slightly shallower, more accessible waters, and with a broader geographic range, is more likely to be encountered, photographed, or accidentally caught. The colossal squid, restricted to the remote Southern Ocean and living deeper, is far rarer in scientific collections and has only been filmed alive once in 2025, and that was a juvenile. It also means that the environmental pressures shaping their evolution are different. The giant squid must contend with a wider range of temperatures, varying prey types, and possibly more competition from other large predators. The colossal squid, in its frozen deep habitat, faces extreme cold, high pressure and a relatively limited range of prey, but also fewer competitors. It has become supremely adapted to this niche, evolving thick skin, slow metabolism, and the largest eyes in the animal kingdom to survive in a world of darkness and ice. Interestingly, both species may overlap slightly with sperm whales, which hunt in both temperate and Antarctic waters, diving to extraordinary depths to feed. The scars found on sperm whales' circular sucker marks and hook wounds tell us that these encounters happen regularly deep below the surface, where humans cannot easily observe. The whales descend into the squid's realm, and battles unfold in the dark, silent, except for the clicks of the whale's echolocation and the thrashing of tentacles and flukes. The ocean, vast as it is, has carved out distinct niches for these two giants. The giant squid roams the world, a wanderer of the twilight zones. The colossal squid guards the deep Antarctic, a sedentary titan of the abyss. They are cousins, evolutionarily speaking, but they live in different worlds shaped by different challenges, and they rarely, if ever, meet. Hunting strategies and prey preferences. Imagine you are falling slowly through the water column, descending through layers of darkness, and suddenly, in the distance, you detect movement, a shimmer of bioluminescence, the flicker of a fish passing through a cloud of glowing plankton. In the deep ocean, this is how prey is detected. Not by sight in the way we understand it, but by sensing light in the darkness, by detecting the faintest disturbance in the still water. The giant squid and the colossal squid are both ambush predators, but they hunt in fundamentally different ways, shaped by their anatomy, their environment, and the prey available to them. The giant squid is an active hunter. It relies on speed, stealth, and those extraordinarily long feeding tentacles to capture prey. Scientists believe, based on stomach contents and the structure of its body, that the giant squid primarily hunts deep-sea fish and other squid. Species like orange roughy hoki and lanternfish, all of which live in the same depth zones as the giant squid, are likely targets. The hunting process probably unfolds something like this. The giant squid drifts slowly through the twilight zone, its massive eyes scanning for movement. When it detects a fish, perhaps by the faint glow of bioluminescence or by the silhouette against the dim background light from above it, begins to stalk. Unlike a shark, which charges its prey, the giant squid likely approaches carefully using its jet propulsion to make small, precise adjustments to its position. Then, at the critical moment, it strikes. The two feeding tentacles, which have been held close to the body, shoot forward with remarkable speed. The tentacle clubs, lined with suckers and teeth, latch onto the fish. The fish struggles, but the tiny serrated teeth dig in, holding fast. Within a second or two, the giant squid retracts the tentacles, pulling the prey toward its mouth, where the 8 arms take over, wrapping around the fish, positioning it for the beak. This kind of hunting requires energy, quick bursts of movement, rapid tentacle extension. It also requires good timing and precision. The giant squid cannot afford to miss often because each strike burns calories that are hard to replace in the nutrient-poor deep ocean. But its streamlined body and long reach give it an advantage. It can attack from a distance, reducing the chance that prey will detect it in time to flee. There's also evidence that giant squid may hunt other squid, including members of their own species. Cannibalism is not uncommon in the squid world, where food can be scarce and any source of protein is valuable. The remains of smaller squid have been found in the stomachs of giant squid specimens, suggesting that they are opportunistic feeders willing to eat whatever they can catch. The diet of the giant squid varies by region and season. In the North Atlantic, stomach content analysis has revealed significant amounts of orange roughy, a deep-dwelling fish with a slow growth rate and long lifespan. These fish congregate around seamounts and underwater ridges, creating predictable hunting grounds where giant squid may return repeatedly. In New Zealand, Water's hoki and other members of the cod family appear frequently in giant squid stomachs, along with various species of myctophids, the lanternfish, that perform nightly vertical migrations from the deep. Interestingly, giant squid stomachs often contain fish that themselves are deep-sea specialists, suggesting that the squid hunt primarily in the twilight and midnight zones rather than chasing prey to the surface. This makes sense given their eye adaptations for low light. The giant squid is built to hunt in permanent darkness, not in the illuminated upper layers of the ocean where their massive size would make them vulnerable to detection by surface predators. Energy balance is a constant concern for these hunters. The deep ocean is often described as a desert, not because it lacks water, but because it lacks food. Primary productivity, the growth of photosynthetic organisms, happens only near the surface where sunlight penetrates. Below the twilight zone, there are no plants, no algae, nothing that creates organic matter from sunlight and minerals. All food in the deep ocean ultimately sinks from above in the form of marine snow, tiny particles of dead organisms' fecal matter and other detritus. This means that deep-sea predators like the giant squid must be incredibly efficient. Every calorie spent hunting must be recouped through successful captures. A failed strike is not just a missed opportunity, it's wasted energy that may take days or weeks to replace. This is why the giant squid's long tentacles are so valuable. They allow strikes from a distance, reducing the energy spent on approach and increasing the chance of surprise. The colossal squid, by contrast, is a passive ambusher. It hunts very differently, shaped by the extreme cold of its environment and the need to conserve energy. In water near freezing, metabolism slows dramatically. Movement becomes costly. the colossal squid has adapted by becoming one of the most energy-efficient predators in the ocean. Scientists estimate that an adult colossal squid weighing 500 kilograms needs only about 30 grams of food per day to survive. That's less than 2 tablespoons of fish. A single Antarctic toothfish weighing 5 kilograms could theoretically provide enough energy to sustain a colossal squid for 200 days. This extraordinarily low metabolic rate allows the colossal squid to wait sometimes for weeks or months for prey to come within reach. The Antarctic toothfish is a remarkable prey species in its own right. These fish can grow to over 2 meters in length and weigh more than 100 kilograms. They live at depths between 300 and 3,000 meters, often near the seafloor, feeding on other fish, squid, and crustaceans. They contain high levels of oil and fat adaptations that help them survive in frigid waters, and this makes them incredibly energy-dense prey. When a colossal squid captures a toothfish, it's winning a caloric jackpot. But these fish are not easy to catch. They're large, strong, and surprisingly fast when threatened. The colossal squid's hooks and powerful grip are essential for subduing such formidable prey. Once caught, the toothfish is helpless, the hooks embedded too deeply to allow escape, and the squid can take its time methodically consuming the fish over hours or even days. Other prey items found in colossal squid stomachs include various species of lanternfish, deep-sea smelt, and smaller squid species. There's also evidence, though controversial, that colossal squid may practice cannibalism, feeding on smaller individuals of their own species. This would make sense in an environment where prey is scarce and competition is low. A recently dead or dying colossal squid would represent an enormous food source, potentially enough to sustain another squid for months. The colossal squid's sit-and-wait hunting strategy also minimizes the risk of detection by its own predators. By remaining motionless for long periods, by using counter-illumination to erase its silhouette, by conserving energy and reducing movement, the colossal squid becomes nearly invisible. Only its enormous eyes move, scanning constantly for approaching prey, or the telltale disturbance of a hunting sperm whale. How does it hunt? The prevailing theory, based on its anatomy and what little we've observed, is that the colossal squid hangs motionless in the water using its bioluminescent photophores to create a faint glow on its underside. This counter-illumination makes it nearly invisible from below, matching the dim light filtering down from above. To prey looking up, the squid simply vanishes. It waits, patient, silent, its enormous eyes scanning the darkness for the approach of prey. When an Antarctic toothfish swims near, perhaps drawn by the faint bioluminescence or simply passing through, the colossal squid strikes. But unlike the giant squid, it doesn't extend tentacles from a distance. Its tentacles are shorter, built for grabbing rather than reaching. Instead, the colossal squid uses a rapid jet burst to close the final distance, then wraps its arms and tentacles around the fish in a crushing embrace. This is where those hooks come into play. As the fish struggles, the hooks rotate and dig in piercing flesh. The suckers, lined with sharp teeth, hold tight. The fish cannot escape. The more it thrashes, the deeper the hooks embed. The colossal squid's grip is absolute. Then comes the beak. Slowly, methodically, the squid positions the fish near its mouth and begins to tear off chunks small enough to pass through the narrow esophagus that runs through its brain. The process is not fast. It's patient, deliberate, energy-conserving. Every movement is calculated to expend as little effort as possible. This passive hunting strategy is perfectly suited to the deep Antarctic. Prey is less abundant than in shallower waters, but it's also slower, less alert. The cold slows everything down. The colossal squid has adapted to this rhythm, becoming a creature of waiting and stillness, broken only by brief, explosive moments of violence. Interestingly, scientists have found evidence that colossal squid may also practice cannibalism, though this is harder to confirm. Hooks and beaks, matching those of juvenile colossal squid, have been found in the stomachs of larger individuals, suggesting that, in the vast, empty waters of the Southern Ocean, even members of the same species are not safe from each other. Both species also have to contend with the challenge of digestion at depth. In the crushing pressure of the deep ocean, normal metabolic processes slow down. The squid's digestive enzymes work more slowly. Their gut bacteria, if they have any, must be adapted to high pressure and low temperature. This means that even after capturing prey, extracting energy from it takes time. A single meal might be digested over days or even weeks. There's another hunting challenge both species face, avoiding becoming prey themselves. While they hunt, they are also hunted primarily by sperm whales. This creates a constant tension. The squid must feed, but feeding often requires movement, bioluminescence, or other activities that might attract predators. The giant squid's faster, more active hunting style may expose it to more risk. The colossal squid's passive strategy may offer more safety, but it also means longer periods without food. Scientists have speculated about whether these squid hunt cooperatively. Do multiple giant squid or colossal squid ever work together to take down larger prey? We simply don't know. All observations of live squid have been solitary individuals. But given how little we've observed, it's possible that social hunting behaviors exist, especially in species that may gather for mating, or in areas where food is temporarily abundant. What we do know is that both species are supremely adapted to their roles as apex invertebrate predators. The giant squid is a pursuit predator built for quick strikes and mobile hunting across vast ocean regions. The colossal squid is a sit-and-wait predator built for endurance and patience in the coldest, deepest waters. Both have evolved strategies that allow them to survive in environments where food is scarce and every calorie counts, and both remain for the most part invisible to us. Their hunts happen in darkness under pressure in waters we can barely reach. We can only infer their strategies from anatomy, from stomach contents, from the rare glimpses we've caught on camera. The full story of how they hunt, how often they succeed, how they choose their prey, remains written in the deep inner language of movement and light. We are only beginning to learn. Predators, battles, and evidence. In the deep ocean, even the largest invertebrates are prey. The giant squid and colossal squid, for all their size and power, are hunted by creatures even more formidable. Chief among these predators is the sperm whale, the largest toothed predator on Earth, an animal that has evolved specifically to hunt squid in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean. Sperm whales are astonishing divers. They routinely descend to depths of 1,000 to 2,000 meters, and some dives reach 3,000 meters or more far deeper than any other mammal, except perhaps the Cuvier's beaked whale. They can hold their breath for over an hour, sometimes 90 minutes, swimming through the pitch-black abyss in search of food. And their primary food source is squid, including both giant squid and colossal squid. We know this because of the evidence they carry on their bodies and in their stomachs. Many sperm whales, especially large males, bear scars on their heads and bodies circular marks left by the suckers of giant squid. These scars are permanent round impressions in the whale's skin, where the squid's suckers edged with tiny teeth, gripped and held during a struggle. Some whales also bear scars from the hooks of colossal squid, curved marks that suggest violent encounters in the deep. When scientists examine the stomach contents of sperm whales, they find squid beaks, thousands of them sometimes accumulated over years of feeding. The beaks are indigestible, made of hard chitin, and they remain in the whale's stomach like a record of every squid ever consumed. Among these beaks are some that belong to giant squid and colossal squid, massive structures far larger than those of other squid species. In some sperm whales caught in Antarctic waters, the beaks suggest that colossal squid may make up a significant portion of their diet, perhaps 70% or more in certain regions. How do these battles unfold? We've never witnessed one, but we can piece together the likely scenario from what we know about both species. The sperm whale dives deep, using echolocation to navigate and hunt. It produces a series of rapid clicks, sound waves that bounce off objects in the water and return as echoes. These clicks are among the loudest biological sounds on Earth, sometimes exceeding 200 decibels. Some scientists believe the clicks may also serve another purpose: stunning prey. There's evidence that sperm whales can focus their echolocation into powerful beams of sound, potentially disorienting or even injuring squid before they can escape. When the whale detects a squid, it approaches its massive blunt head, cutting through the water. The sperm whale does not have a mouthful of teeth designed for chewing. Instead, it has a row of large conical teeth only on the lower jaw. The upper jaw is nearly toothless. This has led scientists to conclude that sperm whales are suction feeders. They create a powerful vacuum by rapidly opening their mouths and expanding their throats, sucking in prey, whole or in large pieces. The squid, sensing the whale's approach through vibrations in the water, or perhaps seeing the faint disturbance of bioluminescent plankton around the whale's massive body, tries to flee or fight. A giant squid might jet backward, extending its tentacles defensively, or offensively trying to latch onto the whale's skin. A colossal squid, slower and heavier, might instead attempt to blend into the darkness using its bioluminescent photophores to erase its silhouette, hoping the whale will pass by without detecting it. But if the whale closes in, the battle is fierce. The squid wraps its arms and tentacles around the whale's head suckers and hooks, digging into the thick, rubbery skin. The whale shakes its head, trying to dislodge the squid, and opens its mouth to create suction. The squid's arms are torn away one by one, or the entire squid is pulled into the whale's mouth in a single, powerful gulp. Sometimes the squid manages to wound the whale. There are documented cases of sperm whales with fresh squid tentacles still attached to their faces, or bodies, evidence of recent struggles. Occasionally, a whale is found with scars so deep they suggest encounters with particularly large individuals, possibly colossal squid, whose hooks left permanent marks. But most of the time, the whale wins. Sperm whales are simply too large, too powerful, and too well adapted for deep-sea hunting. A fully grown male sperm whale can weigh 50 tons and measure over 16 meters long. Even the largest colossal squid at 700 kilograms is dwarfed by such a predator. The whale's skin is thick, designed to withstand pressure and resist injury. Its echolocation is so precise it can detect a single fish from hundreds of meters away. And it has millions of years of evolutionary refinement behind it, making it one of the most effective predators in the ocean. Giant squid and colossal squid are not entirely defenseless, of course. Their size alone makes them formidable. A smaller or younger sperm whale might struggle to subdue a fully grown squid. There are also other predators, though none as significant as the sperm whale. Southern sleeper sharks, which live in Antarctic waters and can grow to several meters in length, are known to feed on squid, including colossal squid. Pilot whales, which are actually large dolphins, also hunt squid and may occasionally take smaller giant squid. Orcas, the apex predators of many ocean ecosystems, have been observed feeding on squid, though it's unclear if they target the giant or colossal species specifically. Juvenile squid face additional threats. Smaller fish, seabirds, and seals may prey on young squid before they grow large enough to be safe from most predators. In the Antarctic, southern elephant seals dive deep to feed and may encounter juvenile colossal squid. These seals can dive to over 1,000 meters and hold their breath for nearly 2 hours, making them capable deep-sea hunters. Both species have evolved defensive strategies. Bioluminescence, as mentioned earlier, can be used for counter-illumination, making the squid invisible from below. They can also release ink, though in the deep ocean where light is scarce, the effectiveness of ink clouds is debated. Some scientists believe deep-sea squid use bioluminescent ink clouds of glowing particles that confuse predators' echolocation or vision. Others think ink may be less useful at depth, and that the primary defense is simply fleeing into the darkness. Speed is another defense, especially for the giant squid. When threatened, it can jet backward rapidly, arms trailing, disappearing into the black in seconds. The colossal squid, slower and less agile, may rely more on camouflage and stillness, hoping to avoid detection entirely rather than trying to outrun a pursuer. There's also the possibility, though unproven, that squid may use their bioluminescence to signal distress, or to attract other predators that might distract or attack whatever is threatening them. This is speculative, but some deep-sea creatures are known to use bioluminescence in complex ways, and squid are intelligent enough that such strategies are not beyond possibility. The scars on sperm whales, the beaks in their stomachs, the occasional stranded squid with whale bite marks. All of this evidence paints a picture of an ongoing evolutionary arms race. The whales dive deeper and develop better echolocation. The squid grow larger eyes and more sophisticated camouflage. The whales develop thicker skin and more powerful suction. The squid evolve hooks and stronger beaks. And in the deep, far from human eyes, this ancient struggle continues as it has for millions of years. Reproduction, growth, and life cycles. One of the deepest mysteries surrounding both the giant squid and the colossal squid is how they reproduce. Despite all the specimens we've collected, all the hours of research, all the technological advances in underwater observation, we have never witnessed either species mating. We don't know where they mate, how they choose partners, or how long their courtship lasts. We can only piece together clues from anatomy, from occasional egg masses found drifting in the ocean, and from comparisons to related species. What we do know is that both species, like all squid, reproduce only once in their lives. This is called semelparity. After mating and laying eggs, the adults die. Their entire life cycle builds toward that single reproductive event, and once it's complete, their bodies begin to break down. This strategy is common in cephalopods, but rare in most other large animals. It means that every individual giant squid or colossal squid alive is either preparing to reproduce or is already dead. In other squid species, mating involves the male transferring packets of sperm, called spermatophores, to the female. The male uses a specialized arm called a hectocotylus to place these packets inside the female's mantle cavity, or near her reproductive organs. The female stores the sperm until her eggs are ready, then fertilizes them internally before releasing them into the water. We assume giant squid and colossal squid follow a similar process, but we've never seen it. What we have found are spermatophores inside female specimens, confirming that mating has occurred at some point before death. We've also found developing eggs inside females, though rarely suggesting that egg production happens over a period of time rather than all at once. The eggs themselves are tiny, each one only a few millimeters across, but they are produced in enormous numbers. A large female giant squid may carry millions of eggs, though not all of them will be fertilized or viable. The eggs are thought to be released in gelatinous masses, floating structures that drift through the water column, protecting the eggs as they develop. Only a few such egg masses have ever been found, and none have been definitively linked to giant squid or colossal squid, though some are suspected based on size and location. Once the eggs hatch, the larvae emerge. These are called paralarvae, tiny transparent versions of the adult, already equipped with tentacles, eyes, and the ability to jet through the water. They are planktonic at first, drifting with ocean currents, feeding on even tinier organisms. This is the most vulnerable stage of their lives. They are eaten by fish, jellyfish, other squid, and countless other predators. Mortality rates are staggering. Of the millions of eggs a female might lay, only a handful of paralarvae will survive to adulthood. As they grow, the young squid begin to hunt more actively. They develop their bioluminescence, their camouflage, their speed. They descend into deeper water, seeking the zones where they will spend their adult lives. How long this growth takes is uncertain. Scientists estimate that giant squid and colossal squid may live only 3 to 5 years, an astonishingly short lifespan for such large animals. But these estimates are based on very limited data, and some researchers believe they could live longer, perhaps 8 to 10 years. Growth rates are also unclear. We know that squid grow rapidly compared to most animals, adding muscle and size quickly when food is available. The colossal squid, with its slower metabolism, may grow more gradually than the giant squid, but this is speculative. What is clear is that by the time they reach sexual maturity, both species are enormous, among the largest invertebrates on Earth. There are hints that giant squid may gather in certain areas for mating, possibly explaining the stranding events that occur periodically in places like Newfoundland. If large numbers of squid congregate in relatively shallow water to mate, some may become disoriented, exhausted, or sick, leading them to wash ashore. This is only a theory, but it fits with patterns observed in other squid species that gather in mating aggregations. For the colossal squid, mating likely occurs in the deep southern ocean, far from any coastline. The lack of strandings and the rarity of specimens suggest that colossal squid do not gather in large groups or venture into shallow water. Their mating may be a solitary affair, two individuals meeting briefly in the dark, transferring sperm, and then parting forever. After mating, the female's body begins to change. Energy is redirected entirely toward egg production. She may stop feeding or feed very little. Her muscles begin to degrade, her organs slow. Once the eggs are released, she has nothing left. She drifts through the water, dying slowly, her body eventually sinking to the sea floor or being scavenged by other deep-sea creatures. The male, having transferred his sperm, faces the same fate. His body weakens, his movements slow, and he too dies, his purpose fulfilled. This single-minded focus on reproduction is one reason why adult giant squid and colossal squid are so rarely seen alive. By the time they're old enough to mate, they may only have weeks or months left to live. They are not long-lived creatures like whales or turtles, accumulating decades of experience. They are brief intents built for a short life that culminates in a single explosive act of reproduction. It also means that every specimen we find, every stranded squid or bycatch in a fishing net, represents not just an individual, but an entire potential lineage lost. If that squid had not died prematurely, it might have released millions of eggs, contributing to the next generation. The fragility of their reproductive strategy makes them vulnerable to environmental changes, overfishing of their prey, and disturbances in their deep-sea habitats. Scientists would give almost anything to witness a mating event to see how these giants interact, how they communicate, how they choose partners. Do they use bioluminescence to signal to each other? Do they display their size or strength in some kind of ritual? Do they fight for mates, or is the encounter gentle cooperative? These questions hang in the water unanswered, waiting for the day when technology and luck combine to reveal one of the ocean's deepest secrets, the mysteries we still haven't solved. Despite more than a century of study, despite advances in submersibles and underwater cameras, despite genetic analysis and detailed anatomical examinations, the giant squid and colossal squid remain profoundly mysterious. There are fundamental questions about their lives that we simply cannot answer. Questions that seem basic yet prove maddeningly elusive. Let's start with one of the most basic. How long do they live? We don't know. Estimates range from 3 to 5 years for giant squid based on growth rings in their statoliths, small calcified structures in their heads similar to the ear bones of fish. But these rings can be difficult to interpret, and there's debate about whether each ring represents a year, a season, or some other time frame. For colossal squid, we have even less data. Some researchers speculate they might live longer due to their slower metabolism and colder environment, but this is just a guess. Related to this is the question of how fast they grow. Do they grow steadily throughout their lives, or do they have growth spurts? Do juveniles grow faster than adults? How much does food availability affect growth rate? We've never been able to track an individual from hatching to adulthood, so all of this remains speculation. Then there's the question of population size. How many giant squid exist in the world's oceans? How many colossal squid circle Antarctica? We have no reliable estimates. We know they're not abundant in the way small fish are abundant, but we don't know if there are hundreds, thousands, or millions. The vastness of the ocean and the depth at which they live make population surveys nearly impossible with current technology. This leads to another mystery: migration patterns. Do these squid migrate seasonally? Do they follow ocean currents or temperature gradients? Do they return to specific areas to mate, or are their movements random? The giant squid, with its global distribution, might have complex migration routes spanning entire ocean basins. The colossal squid, restricted to the Southern Ocean, might migrate vertically, moving between depth zones, or it might stay in roughly the same area its entire life. We simply don't know. There's also the question of social behavior. Are these squid solitary, or do they sometimes gather in groups? We've never seen groups in the wild, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. Many deep-sea creatures gather for mating or feeding in ways we've only recently discovered. It's possible that giant squid or colossal squid congregate at certain times of year in certain locations, and we've just never been in the right place at the right time to observe it. Another mystery is communication. Do these squid communicate with each other? If so, how we know that some squid species use color changes, body postures, and bioluminescent signals to communicate. The giant squid and colossal squid both have chromatophores and photophores, suggesting they might use similar methods. But we've never observed it. We don't know if they signal to attract mates, to warn of danger, to establish territory, or for any other purpose. Their communication, if it exists, happens in darkness, in silence beyond our ability to detect. Then there's the question of intelligence. How smart are these creatures? Cephalopods in general are known for being intelligent, capable of problem-solving, learning, and even using tools in some cases. Octopuses, the cousins of squid, have been observed solving mazes, opening jars, and recognizing individual humans. But octopuses live in coastal environments where scientists can study them easily. Giant squid and colossal squid live in the deep, where intelligence tests are impossible. We know they have large brains relative to their body size, and their eyes suggest sophisticated visual processing. But does this translate to intelligence in the way we understand it? Can they remember locations, recognize individuals of their own species, plan ahead? We can only speculate based on what we know about related species. There's also the mystery of why giant squid strand themselves on beaches. This has been happening for centuries, documented in places like Newfoundland and New Zealand. Some scientists believe it's related to mating, that squid venture into shallower water to reproduce and become disoriented or exhausted. Others think it might be related to illness parasites or environmental changes like shifts in ocean temperature or currents. Frederick Aldrich proposed that strandings follow a 90-year cycle tied to some long-term oceanic pattern. His prediction about the 1960s strandings was somewhat accurate, lending credence to the idea. But we don't fully understand what drives these cycles or what environmental factors trigger them. Climate change may be altering these patterns, but we don't have enough baseline data to be sure. The colossal squid, by contrast, almost never strands. In over a century, only a handful of specimens have been found on beaches, and most of those were dead or dying, washed up by storms. This difference is puzzling. Why does the giant squid strand but the colossal squid doesn't? Is it purely a matter of habitat that the colossal squid lives too deep and too far from shore? Or is there some behavioral difference that keeps colossal squid away from dangerous shallows? Another mystery is diet specificity. We know roughly what these squid eat: fish and other squid primarily, but we don't know how selective they are. Do they prefer certain species? Do they avoid others? Do they change their diet as they grow, starting with small prey as juveniles, and switching to larger prey as adults? Analysis of stomach contents has provided some clues, but most specimens are found with empty stomachs or only partially digested remains, making definitive conclusions difficult. There's also the question of how they avoid predators beyond what we've already discussed. We know they use camouflage and speed, but are there other strategies? Do they use decoys shedding arms or tentacles to distract attackers? Some squid species can autotomize, deliberately detaching body parts to escape. We don't know if giant squid or colossal squid have this ability. And then there's the most fundamental mystery of all. What else is down there? If it took us until 2004 to photograph a living giant squid, and until 2025 to film a living colossal squid, what other enormous creatures might be hiding in the deep, still unknown to science? The ocean is vast, and the deep ocean is especially unexplored. We've mapped the surface of Mars in more detail than we've mapped our own seafloor. There could be other squid species equally large or larger that we simply haven't encountered yet. There could be relatives of the giant squid and colossal squid, with different adaptations living in different zones or regions. The discovery of the colossal squid itself came as a surprise after all. Scientists didn't predict its existence, they stumbled upon it. This brings up the question of taxonomy. Are we certain that all giant squid belong to a single species? Or could there be multiple species that look similar but are genetically distinct? For decades, scientists debated whether there were several species of giant squid or just one. Genetic studies suggest just one, but those studies are based on limited samples. It's possible that regional populations are more distinct than we realize. The colossal squid, being so rare, has not been studied genetically as thoroughly. There may be only one species, or there may be several populations with subtle differences. We don't know if the colossal squid found near the Antarctic peninsula is the same as one found in the waters off southern New Zealand. Finally, there's the question of how climate change will affect these species. As ocean temperatures rise, as currents shift, as ice melts and ecosystems change, how will the giant squid and colossal squid respond? Will they adapt, moving to new areas or changing their behavior? Or will they struggle, unable to cope with rapid environmental shifts? The colossal squid living in the Southern Ocean is particularly vulnerable. Antarctic waters are warming faster than the global average, and the melting of ice shelves is altering ocean circulation patterns. If the colossal squid's prey species decline or move, the squid may face food shortages. If water temperatures rise too much, the squid's slow metabolism, so well adapted to the cold, might become a disadvantage. These mysteries are not just academic curiosities. They're essential questions for understanding how these creatures fit into ocean ecosystems, how they've evolved, and how they might change or disappear in the future. And until we can observe them consistently in the wild, until we can track them, study their behavior and watch them across their full life cycle, these mysteries will remain hanging in the dark water like bioluminescent sparks, beautiful and untouchable. There are even more fundamental mysteries that rarely get discussed, but are equally perplexing. For instance, we don't fully understand how these squid regulate their buoyancy. Unlike fish, which have swim bladders filled with gas, squid must achieve neutral buoyancy through other means. Some deep-sea squid accumulate ammonium ions in their tissues, which are less dense than seawater, and help them float. Is this what giant squid and colossal squid do? We have hints from chemical analysis, but no definitive answers. The question matters because buoyancy control affects how much energy a squid must expend just to stay at its preferred depth. Another mystery involves their sensory capabilities beyond vision. Do these squid have a sense of smell or taste in the way we understand it? They lack noses, but they do have chemoreceptors on their skin and arms that can detect chemical signals in the water. How sensitive are these receptors? Can a giant squid smell blood from a wounded fish kilometers away? Can a colossal squid detect the chemical signature of an approaching sperm whale? These questions touch on the fundamental experience of being a deep-sea squid, how they perceive their environment in ways we can barely imagine. There's also the mystery of parasites and disease. Every large marine animal carries parasite organisms that live on or inside them, feeding without necessarily killing their host. We've found parasites on dead squid specimens, worms embedded in their tissues, crustaceans attached to their skin. But we don't know how these infections affect living squid. Do parasites cause the strandings we sometimes see? Do they weaken squid, making them more vulnerable to predators? Or do these giants have immune systems robust enough to tolerate significant parasite loads without harm? The question of maximum size is another enduring mystery, despite claims of having answered it. While we have measurements of the largest specimens ever found, we can't be certain these represent the absolute maximum size these species can achieve. It's possible that truly giant individuals, the largest of the large, live in parts of the ocean we've never surveyed, or that they avoid the surface and deep fishing zones where most specimens are found. Sperm whales sometimes bear scars suggesting encounters with squid larger than any we've documented. Are these scars from exceptionally large individuals, or are they from multiple smaller attacks? We don't know. There's also the evolutionary mystery of why these particular squid groups evolved to be so large. Abyssal gigantism, the tendency for deep-sea creatures to grow larger than their shallow water relatives, is well documented, but the mechanisms are still debated. Is it lower metabolic rates in cold water, reduced predation pressure, longer lifespans allowing more time for growth, high oxygen availability in cold water? Probably some combination of all these factors, but the precise evolutionary pathway that led to squid the size of school buses, remains unclear. We also don't understand how they maintain their massive eyes in the crushing pressure of the deep. The eye is a delicate structure filled with fluid, with a lens that must maintain a specific shape to focus properly. At depths of 1,000 meters or more, the pressure is enough to compress gas-filled spaces and deform soft tissues. Yet somehow, squid eyes function perfectly. They must have internal pressure regulation systems or structural adaptations we haven't fully identified. Another question involves their acoustic environment. Do giant squid and colossal squid produce sounds? Many squid species create clicking noises, possibly for communication or echolocation, though their ability to echolocate is far less developed than that of dolphins or sperm whales. We've never recorded sounds definitively attributed to giant squid or colossal squid. If they are silent, how do they communicate across distances in the darkness? If they do produce sounds, why haven't we heard them? The ocean is a noisy place filled with whale songs, ship engines and geological rumblings. It's possible squid sounds simply get lost in the background noise, or that they communicate at frequencies we haven't monitored. There's also a deeper question about cognition and awareness. Do these squid have subjective experiences? Do they feel pain, fear, or stress? Octopuses, their close relatives, show clear signs of complex behavior, problem-solving, and even play. But octopuses live in accessible coastal waters where we can study them easily. Giant squid and colossal squid remain unknown in this regard. Their large brains suggest sophisticated processing, but we can't say what, if anything, they experience subjectively. The fossil record adds another layer of mystery. We have very few fossils of large squid, primarily because soft tissues don't preserve well. Most squid fossils are just gladius remains, the internal shell-like structure or occasional beak impressions. This makes it difficult to trace the evolutionary history of Architeuthis and Mesonicoteuthis. When did these lineages diverge? What did their ancestors look like? How long have squid of this size existed in the oceans? Molecular clock studies, which estimate evolutionary timing based on genetic mutations, provide some clues, but they're inexact and depend on many assumptions. Climate change poses questions we can't yet answer. As oceans warm, acidify, and lose oxygen in some regions, how will these changes ripple through deep-sea ecosystems? Will giant squid and colossal squid adapt, shift their ranges, or decline? Will their prey species move to different depths or latitudes, forcing the squid to follow or starve? Will warming waters reach the deep southern ocean, the colossal squid's only habitat? And if so, what happens then? These are not hypothetical concerns. Ocean temperatures are already changing measurably, and the effects are beginning to show in species distributions worldwide. Finally, there's the haunting question of what else we don't know. The ocean keeps secrets well. The discovery of the colossal squid itself, unknown to science until 1925 despite its enormous size, reminds us that major animals can hide in plain sight for centuries. Could there be other large squid species unknown to science lurking in unexplored ocean regions? Could there be predators or prey we've never imagined, organisms that play roles in the deep-sea ecosystem we haven't even conceived of? Every answer we find seems to generate two new questions. Every specimen examined reveals another layer of complexity. And in the end, perhaps that's fitting. The ocean, vast and deep, should not yield all its secrets easily. The giant squid and colossal squid creatures that have lived in darkness for millions of years should not be simple or easy to understand. Their mystery is part of their power, part of what makes them so captivating to scientists and dreamers alike. modern research and future discoveries. For most of human history, the deep ocean was inaccessible. It was a realm we could only imagine described in myths and sailors' tales, but never directly observed. Even after the invention of diving equipment, submarines, and early submersibles, the depths where giant squid and colossal squid lived remained largely out of reach. The pressure was too great, the darkness too complete, the technology too limited. But in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, that began to change. Advances in underwater robotics, camera technology, and submersible design opened new possibilities for deep-sea exploration. And with these advances came the first real glimpses of these elusive giants in their natural habitat. The breakthrough came in 2004. A team of Japanese researchers led by marine biologist Tsunemi Kubodera and photographer Kyoichi Mori deployed a specialized camera system in the deep waters off Japan's Ogasawara Islands. They baited a line with squid and waited. For hours, nothing. Then, at a depth of around 900 meters, something massive appeared. A giant squid attracted by the bait approached and began to feed. The cameras captured over 500 images as the squid interacted with the bait, wrapping its tentacles around it, pulling it closer. These were the first photographs ever taken of a living giant squid in its natural habitat. The images showed the squid's reddish color, the grace of its movements, the power in its tentacles. It was a historic moment, proof that with the right approach, even the most elusive deep-sea creatures could be observed. 2 years later, in 2006, the same team went further. They managed to bring a giant squid to the surface still alive, though badly injured from being caught on the baited line. The squid died shortly after being brought aboard, but it provided researchers with the first opportunity to examine a relatively fresh specimen and to document its appearance and behavior up close. Then in 2012 came the ultimate achievement. A team including Kubodera, along with researchers from the Discovery Channel and NHK, descended into the deep in a specially designed submersible. At a depth of around 600 meters in the waters near the Bonin Islands, they encountered a giant squid in its natural habitat. This time they were able to film it. Not just photograph it, but capture video of a living, swimming, active giant squid gliding through the darkness. The footage, when it was released, captivated the world. Here was the Kraken, real and undeniable, moving with an eerie alien grace. Its massive eyes reflected the submersible's lights. Its tentacles drifted behind it like ghostly ribbons. It was both beautiful and otherworldly, a creature that seemed to belong to another planet. But while the giant squid was slowly yielding its secrets, the colossal squid remained even more elusive. Despite decades of searching, despite numerous expeditions to Antarctic waters, no one had managed to film a living colossal squid in the wild. All the specimens were dead or dying when found, often tangled in fishing nets or washed ashore. Then in March 2025 came a discovery that stunned the scientific community. An international team aboard the research vessel Folklore, operated by the Schmidt Ocean Institute, was conducting an ocean census expedition in the South Atlantic near the South Sandwich Islands. They were using a remotely operated vehicle, or ROV, called Sebastian to explore the deep waters near Antarctica. At a depth of approximately 600 meters, the ROV's cameras captured something extraordinary. A small, translucent squid about 1 foot in length, drifting through the water. At first, the team wasn't sure what they were looking at, but as they examined the footage more closely, they noticed distinctive features: hooks on the tentacles, a specific arrangement of photophores, the shape of the fins. It was a juvenile colossal squid, the first ever filmed alive in its natural habitat. This was a monumental discovery coming exactly 100 years after the colossal squid was first identified in 1925. The footage showed the squid's pearly eyes, its transparent body, the delicate way it moved through the water. It revealed color-changing cells on the mantle, suggesting the colossal squid could alter its appearance, possibly for camouflage. It also confirmed details about juvenile morphology that had only been guessed at before. These discoveries, both for the giant squid and the colossal squid, represent major milestones, but they also highlight how much more there is to learn. The giant squid footage from 2012 and the colossal squid footage from 2025 are both brief, limited encounters. They show us what these animals look like, how they move, but they don't reveal behavior over time, feeding strategies, social interactions, or reproductive behavior. To truly understand these creatures, scientists need new tools and new approaches. One promising avenue is environmental DNA, or eDNA. This technique involves collecting water samples from the ocean and analyzing them for traces of genetic material shed by animals as they swim. Scales, mucus, feces, even skin cells all contain DNA that lingers in the water. By analyzing eDNA, researchers can detect the presence of species without ever seeing them. Several teams have begun using eDNA to search for giant squid and colossal squid. If successful, this could help map their distribution, identify breeding areas, and estimate population sizes far more effectively than traditional methods. It could reveal whether there are undiscovered populations in remote ocean regions, or whether certain areas serve as critical habitat. Another approach is tagging. Some researchers have proposed capturing live squid and attaching tracking devices before releasing them. This is technically challenging since the animals are delicate and the deep ocean environment makes recovery of tags difficult. But if successful, satellite tags or acoustic tags could provide invaluable data on migration patterns, diving behavior, and habitat use. Submersible technology is also advancing. New generations of deep-sea vehicles equipped with better cameras, longer battery life, and more sophisticated sensors are making it possible to spend more time at depth, increasing the chances of encountering rare species. Autonomous underwater vehicles, or AUVs, can patrol the deep for weeks at a time, recording video and collecting data without human operators. There's also growing interest in deploying camera traps in the deep ocean, similar to the wildlife cameras used on land. These systems, baited with food or light, sit on the seafloor or float at specific depths, recording whatever comes near. Over weeks or months, they accumulate footage of deep-sea life, including potentially giant squid or colossal squid. Some have already captured rare species, and it's possible that future deployments will yield new insights into squid behavior. Citizen science is playing a role as well. Fishermen, sailors, and divers are encouraged to report sighting strandings or unusual specimens. Websites and apps have been created to collect this data, creating a global network of observers. In some cases, fishing vessels working in remote areas like the Southern Ocean are equipped with cameras and asked to document any unusual catches, including colossal squid. Genetic studies are also expanding. By comparing DNA from specimens collected around the world, scientists can map genetic diversity, identify distinct populations, and trace evolutionary relationships. This can reveal whether giant squid from the Atlantic are the same as those from the Pacific, or whether colossal squid show regional variation. All of these efforts are part of a broader push to explore and understand the deep ocean, often called Earth's last frontier. Organizations like the Ocean Census, the Schmidt, Ocean Institute, NOAA, and various international research collaboratives are dedicating resources to deep-sea exploration, recognizing that much of the planet's biodiversity remains undiscovered. But there are challenges. Deep-sea research is expensive. Submersibles and ROVs cost millions of dollars to build and operate. Expeditions require ships' crews and months of planning. Funding is limited, and many other scientific priorities compete for resources. And the deep ocean is vast, covering more than half the planet. Even with the best technology searching for rare, elusive creatures like giant squid and colossal squid is like looking for needles in a haystack the size of continents. Still, there's hope. Each new discovery, each new piece of footage, each new specimen brings us closer to understanding these magnificent creatures. And as technology improves and more researchers turn their attention to the deep, it's likely that more mysteries will be solved. Perhaps one day we'll witness a giant squid hunting in real time, its tentacles extending to snatch a fish from the darkness. Perhaps we'll film a colossal squid mating two massive bodies intertwined in the cold Antarctic waters. Perhaps we'll discover new species cousins of the giants we already know living in parts of the ocean we've never explored. The future of deep-sea research is bright, even though the subject is the darkest, most remote part of the planet. And the giant squid and colossal squid, once creatures of myth and nightmare, are slowly, quietly revealing themselves, one photograph, one video, one specimen at a time. And so our journey through the deep comes to a quiet close. We've drifted together through darkness and mystery through the cold waters, where giants with eyes like headlights glide silently, hunting, hiding, living lives we're only beginning to understand. The giant squid and the colossal squid are not just animals. They are symbols of everything we don't yet know about the ocean, about the planet, about the hidden corners of the natural world. For all our technology, for all our curiosity and ingenuity, they remind us that there are still secrets, still places we cannot reach, still creatures that watch us from the deep without us ever knowing they're there. These are not monsters, though. Legends made them so. They are survivors shaped by millions of years of evolution to thrive in one of Earth's harshest environments. They are beautiful in their strangeness, elegant in their adaptations, and profoundly mysterious in their lives. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, imagine yourself sinking slowly through warm, dark water. The pressure builds gently around you, but you feel no discomfort. The light fades from blue to violet to black, and in that blackness, you sense movement. A flicker of bioluminescence, the slow, graceful pulse of a massive body gliding past. You are safe here, floating in the quiet. The giants pay you no mind. They have their own lives to live, their own hunts to complete, their own mysteries to guard. You are simply a visitor passing through their world, and they through yours, two ships crossing in the endless night. Let your breathing slow. Let your thoughts dissolve like ink in water. The ocean is vast and the deep is patient. There is no rush. There is only the gentle rocking of invisible currents, the distant hum of life. Continuing in the dark, the soft certainty that somewhere far below creatures of legend still exist. Still swim, still watch, with eyes the size of dinner plates. If you're still awake, know that sleep will come. It always does, like the tide returning to shore, inevitable and soothing. And when you wake, the ocean will still be there. The giants will still be gliding through their frozen, lightless realm. The mysteries will still wait patient and eternal. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If these quiet explorations bring you peace or spark your curiosity, consider subscribing. It helps others find their way here, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, just rest. Let the story of the giant squid and colossal squid fade into the background, a gentle lullaby of science and wonder. Let your mind grow still, your body heavy, your thoughts soft and scattered like bioluminescence in the deep. The ocean breathes, the giants swim, and you safe and warm drift slowly into sleep. Good night.